I'm going to come in to be here. Hello, we're live. It's Friday, the 14th of June, which is a bit weird because that was like almost half a year that we've just done. Anyway, hopefully we're starting now. It says 3:29 on my phone. It says 3:30 on other bits and pieces. So we'll give it a second, let some people join. If you could tell me that I am broadcasting and it all works, with someone just saying I'm here, or tell me, what the weather's like. I can tell you here, I'm wearing a hoodie because it's about 10 degrees Celsius or about 50 degrees Fahrenheit in the UK at the moment on the 14th of June. So it's a bit like that. Got a 15-second delay. So always get these little moments now when we're coming in to start. Cool. Excellent. Hi, good to hear from you. Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. It's good to have you there. Right. Let's give it a couple more seconds for a few more people to join, and then we'll come in. Right. Excellent. Let's start. Well, thank you very much, first of all, everyone, for joining me. We have got Scott Young, who's on attending today. Scott's helping out. He's going to do it. Oh, hello, Angela. Scott's helping out. He's going to do the comments and the questions as they come in, if you have any. And I will be giving the talk today on outreach, prospecting, and whale hunting, which is something we all have to do in sales, really, isn't it? But they are different. And we're going to go through and talk about these things on why they're different, throw in a little bit of thing about farming, talk about business development, and talk about the difference between business development people and salespeople. So yeah, it's even worse in Northern Ireland. God, I don't believe it. It's pretty cold here. And we've had a thunderstorm and stuff like that. Anyway, June 14th, this is the way it rolls. So let's talk about outreach, prospecting, and whale hunting. The first thing we're going to start off with is a little bit of the advert for Guido Scientific. We are working with people mainly in scientific instrumentation to launch, strengthen, or accelerate their businesses. There are 8 of us now. I think 9 will happen on Monday. And we put together programs to help people do this. Some of it's training. We also help people do the sales of their business. We do general advice for people as well. But that's our advert, so that's over now. Let's go through and actually talk about the subject. We need to talk to people, more people, but how are we going to talk to them? This is the fundamental problem that we need to address. Now, anyone who's done one of these webinars before knows James operates a list of 10 things, and we're going to go through the 10 things. My apologies for that, but it does make it a lot easier when you're trying to write these things. And the first one is normally the same thing. It's normally, what are you trying to do? And I think this is so critical, and I think people don't get to this. But actually, before you start doing anything, understand that there are lots of different ways you can do things. Don't kind of prescribe to this. The only way you can do it. No, there are loads of different ways. It's choosing the right way for you. So when we do the first thing, say, well, what are you trying to do? Your caveman brain kicks in, particularly in sales, and goes, well, sell stuff. Just want to sell more stuff. And that's obvious. So we've got to get through the obvious. We've got to get rid of the caveman brain. Don't want that one. And let's get into it. What do we got to consider? Well, what's the transaction amount? Because if you're going to try and sell things that are $1 million, then we're going to do prospecting or outreach in an entirely different way than if we want to sell something that's $50, $50 sneakers down the stall. That's an entirely different proposition, right? So how much are we talking about transactionally? Because that's going to guide what I'm going to try and do. How many transactions do I need to do? Look, I'm a consultant. I need to do really 2 to 3 transactions a year that are large, and I need to do 10 other ones that will make up the numbers. I need 12 transactions a year. I can probably live with 1 or 2. What patience does the company have? If you are wanting to be in a business that has to drive continual revenue because it needs the business constantly, like a shop where people have to walk through every day, then you're not going to do any business development. You're going to spend your time prospecting to ensure you've got the next order. If you're fighting for a quota because you've promised it to the private equity company that owns you, you're going to be prospecting. You're not going to be doing whale hunting or anything else. So, like, what patience have you got? Business development really happens when you have patience. Next, are you in business development or sales? And if you think they're the same thing, then they're not. I used to be quite funny about it. I used to call business development reps sales reps without quotas. They kind of are. They kind of are these reps without quotas, but they're a little bit different. But, normally you're afforded time in business development. That's probably the biggest thing. Who else can you drag into the sale? Can you drag in managers into the sale? Are you going to get people? Can you get your engineering lead to come into the sale with you? Who else can you bring into the sale? Are you hunting as a team, or are you on your own and then going to ask the factory questions? And what do your backers need? Everyone has backers, right? If you own the company, then it's your bank who wants to know what's going on if you've had a loan out with them. If you're part of a group, it's the private equity company owns you, it's the boss that owns you. If you've got investors, it's the investors. What do they want to hear that's going to make them feel safe? Are they going to want to hear about continual short-term pipeline growth, or are you going to hear about fantastic big things or customers that agree with you? And that's going to come down because maybe you just want to talk to people. And why are prospects going to care to talk to you? Because I don't like being advertised to. I don't like people phoning me up with adverts. So we're going to try and get into some of those things as well. So we've got all these reasons that will separate which of these different styles of calling customers I'm going to do. First thing is to understand where prospecting fits and why it's such a problem with salespeople is because in the sales cycle, we have to attack the need recognition. We have to go and talk to people. And normally these people are like, well, I didn't know I needed that, but now I need it. So these people are blind targets and you're trying to present them with a new idea, or if you're lucky, interrupt them. Oh God, it's so fantastic. I was about to start looking at this product and your product is the same. That's great. But most of the time you're interrupting people in the need recognition section of a purchase in their head. They haven't even got going. You've got to get them early. The reality is the bits that salespeople like is they like developing sales. We like doing demos. We like proving functions. We like getting into the deal and so on. That's a real gut feel for us. We like going into the purchase, moving through. So this actually is a bit of a difficult stage for us to get through. So classical salespeople have more of a challenge here than, say, a business development or someone who has the time to do the thinking around this. So anything we're going to do is going to be in this need recognition stage. The customer has to understand they need it. Like, I didn't know I needed an iPad. I need an iPad, apparently. I didn't know I need an Apple Watch. I need an Apple Watch, apparently. These things are brought to me during a need recognition phase. So let's talk about the terms here, the alignment of the terms. So there are different things that we call, prospecting. So the first thing is we've got this thing called farming. Look, farming is the greatest thing in the world. It's calling people that already know who you are. These are existing customers, or if you hire a rep who've worked in the market before, you're getting their Rolodex and their relationships. You're farming. You're having an incredibly warm call to someone who's expecting the call from you, who would love to talk to you. So that's what farming is. You're going through the database to an old lead. They know who you are. They might not have bought from you, but you're still farming. Outreach, to me, is all about contacting large volumes of customers to find a few. So if I had I wanted to go, I'm going to call 1,000 people, or I'm going to email 1,000 people, but I only need like 10. I'm not expecting for 1,000 people to get 100 deals. I'm kind of expecting 10 people to respond. So outreach is much more of a kind of marketing crossover tool, really. It's about getting emails sent out or having SDRs call people. Prospecting, to me, is focused efforts to reach targets in key accounts or target accounts with the intention of purchasing. I'm going to phone people in Boston to get visits of meetings, to go and see them, to try and convince them that they should buy something from me. So that's prospecting. Classical, I'm going to try and work out who you are, what you want before I make the phone call, and I'm going to try and get in front of you, and I'm going to try and get you to buy the product. It might take some time, but I'm going to try and get you to buy the product. Business development for me is different. Business development for me is basically prospecting in a market, or your products or your company is unknown. So I used to work for a camera company and we sold into life sciences. Every so often we'd end up in spectroscopy. If we were going to do that consciously, that would have been a business development effort to go into spectroscopy. We weren't known in spectroscopy. We were known in life sciences. You stick us on a microscope. That's how it worked. Occasionally we get people from astronomy. We look into astronomy. If we wanted to have a real big look inside astronomy, that would have been a business development effort to go and look inside astronomy. But a lot of people will talk about business development. If for example, I'm the rep for Thermo in Boston and I've got a product that's been sold before, if I'm calling customers, I'm not doing business development. The target was 2 million last year. It's 2 million this year. I'm in sales. I'm prospecting. If I'm in Thermo Fisher and I've been given a brand new product that no one has ever sold before, and we don't know where it fits or how it's going to work, that's business development. That's much more like it. The last thing is whale hunting. Whale hunting is a long-term plan where you're saying, I want to win the business, and I want to win the business from these mega accounts that can change the revenue of my business by 10 or 20%. And that's not 10 or 20% when you've got zero. That's like 10 or 20% when you're $50 million, right? You're looking for large deals that will absolutely change the way you're doing. You're looking at selling to incredibly large companies in large volumes or in large amounts. That's where you're looking. This is your $20, $200 million, whatever it is, deals that you want to put into your scale. And the aim here is that you're going to identify these accounts that buy in such volume, that could buy from you in such volume. And you're going to say, I'm going to win for you over the next 5 years. I might lose to you in the first 3 or 4 years. I might do a deal, get really close, you buy from my supplier, but I'm going to come back because my aim is to build this long-term relationship with you using the high-end people in my business to go together and find the right people and really go for the big guns, really to go for whale hunting. So this is the differences here. Scott, have you got any questions? I think earlier on you made a kind of comment on like, which one's the best one for you?
Yeah. I just thinking about it more after we talked
Scott,
earlier.
I think you're not.
Am I?
Oh, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you. Maybe that's a technical fault we've got. Well, while we're fixing the technical fault, hopefully you guys can hear me and that is all running, but we'll wait for Scott to see if he can fix that. In the meantime, I shall continue because we're at 2, meaning we must logically go to 3. And my point here is, if you've heard from us, that's a start. If you can, anybody who can farm, right? We can hear you. Angela can hear me. Brilliant. That's so good.
Oh, good.
We can hear you. Great, Scott. Okay, it's me. I can't hear you, Scott. I don't know what it is. They're all good. They can hear Scott. Well, okay, I can't. And I can hear you. Scott and I can't talk to each other. I don't know how this works. We'll go with it. We'll work it out. Anyway, so this is the biggest thing. If you're a sales rep who's got a CRM system and it's been filled in and you've got names and telephone numbers and emails, you're the luckiest sales rep on the planet Earth. If you want to go to a startup where you've got nothing, this is an entirely different proposition. So if you've got a list, it's gold, and you don't know how lucky you are. People, just understand this, are what I call lazy. People call it efficient. But basically, how difficult is it going to sell me for me to be sold on a new iPhone? I mean, I got a 13 or a 14. I don't even know. But I'm going to buy another one. It's going to be one of them. I'm loyal to the company. I've made it an efficient purchase at the moment that I can do this. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, I'm going to buy the same thing. So anybody who's bought from you before, they might be slightly annoyed. They might have a few questions. Get over that. You're going to deal with it. But they're going to upgrade. They're going to duplicate the system they've already bought. And there's a high chance that they will promote you within their local account. So it's the greatest thing that you can kind of get to. If you've got a database, most people have a database and they tell me it's unusable. You can clean them. You can do this with relative ease. We can export all the emails and tell you which ones are bouncing. We can find you telephone numbers for people that have gone. We can tell you who's moved. There are loads of tools for us to match your CRM and actually tell you what's there. If not, just get calling. You're never going to get a warmer call. And if you're in sales today and you've ever gone through this, you don't know how lucky you are to have a phone call for somebody who bought something 7 years ago, because that is at least a start. So they'll take your call. They'll meet you. You'll do anything you want. So number 4 is outreach. Well, look, if you got like 1,000 people, then you need some efficiency to simplify this. Look, if you're not got enough time with these 1,000 people to really go deep and learn about each one of these customers that you're going to try and meet. Okay. Nor you got the time to do the personalization to write these highly complicated emails that you're going to say specifically about them. Now, you could tell me you could use AI for it, and good luck on that. The amount of nonsense I get through to me that's personalized about stuff. And I'm sure it'll come, right, as we all fall to the masters. But you're not going to do this. So you've got to do the math. If a high salesperson is not going to be able to send 1,000 emails out and personalize all of them, you either are going to do some form of automation through email, or you're going to use some lower skilled person who's absolutely right to get their place in the world and given an opportunity to have a job, to get an SDR or get someone in to do the phoning for you. That's completely fine and highly efficient if you want to do real numbers. But effectively, for me, outreach is marketing. And that's really a lot of where it comes from. GDPR blocked us sending marketing emails. GDPR did not block us sending emails to people saying, hey, you do this. Now, what you can't do is if you have to have some ability to go, well, I think you do this because I'm selling you something and it says you're the imaging director of this facility. And therefore, I have a clear thing. What you can't do is say, I sell socks. I think you have 2 legs. All right. You can't do that. But overall, outreach is a normal approach. But again, it's going to be pretty useful. It's pretty good if you're trying to do things like a voice of customer, or you're trying to find people to give you some feedback or something else like that. Large numbers of data you want to get through, outreach is going to be great. It is not going to find you whales. It's not going to find you the people to meet if you're selling $500,000 systems. It's not going to do that. They're probably pretty good if you're selling sneakers or online subscriptions or anything else like that. Now, because you can do outreach, doesn't mean you should do outreach. And please, 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 if you're going to do this stuff, you comes with great responsibility. Don't send me adverts and don't send me things that have in the title, quick question. Did you get my last email? We have this one-time offer. We do B2B. Just drive the crazy, because I used to be annoyed that I had to put them into junk. Now I have to be annoyed that I have to clear out my junk folder. But and it's really hard for those guys. The more specialized what you do, the more niche what you do, actually, the more useful outreach is. The more easier it is to craft a message that would actually resonate with one of these people. The more generic what you do, I think it's the harder to do it that way. Next up, if you want to engage, you're going to prospect. And prospecting for me is better than outreach, or different to outreach. Outreach is really good for like getting people to attend a webinar, for example. But if you're doing, you really want to do it, we do classical prospecting. And what do we do in the old days? And I still do it to this day. Hey, I'm coming to your area. I'd love to see you. And COVID kind of tried to kill that a little bit, but it still helps, particularly in large accounts. Prospecting to me is focused efforts to find target customers based on a segmentation made in one of the following areas. There are lots of different areas, but an area, Boston. Hello, I'm coming to Boston. You do what we do in Boston. I'm coming to Boston. Market. I'm looking at the people that do screening of drugs faster. I'm looking for people like, high content screening, high throughput screening. I'm going to look for them. Actually, I don't care if they're in Boston. I want 100 people across the world because I make the best one, right? Or you look at applications paints. So I've got Cell Paint. I'm looking for people to test out my product in Cell Paint. There's only 150 people across the globe. Let's do it across the globe. Or company size, or whatever. Whatever you do, the more you segment, the easier I find it actually to do proper prospecting. The more you get into this pot of like having 100 people that should be really aligned and the message should be really clear to, the actual easier it is. The more you're spraying and praying, the harder and the least value it is, the harder it is to make those lists. And the more likely there's going to be nonsense is going to be in there as well. But prospecting for me has to be done by the quota holder, right? So this is sales or it's business development. You've got to do it. You can't push it off through an SDR. This is really about you going, okay, I need one more deal to make this month. I need to go through this. I'm visiting the area. I'm going to try and push through. It has to be done by the business owner. And the best thing really, I hate it, is you got to talk to them. This isn't going to be, you're not going to sell, like if I wanted to sell nuclear power plants, I reckon there's a meeting. There has to be at least one meeting. There's like, we've got to meet these people. We've got to interact with these people. So prospecting is selling what you have to people that do the same thing as your regular customers. A company has kind of done this and it's come in and it's been we made the product for this and we're going to continue to sell it into these markets for people doing the same thing. Business development, well, business development's an awful term because it sort of sits in loads of places. We had product managers doing business development. It was their job to go off, look at different business sections, look and design products to grow the business by designing products relative to it. Same for marketing. You can do marketing development people. You have, what are marketing managers? Effectively product managers in different territories. They own the success of growing you within that market. But you've got sales business development, which is, I think, what we're much more used to hearing. And for me, Sales business development is focused on prospecting in a market where your product is unknown to drive future relationships and orders. The pressure is entirely different. You need time to do the business development. Okay, salespeople are terrible at doing business development. They're terrible about doing business development because actually, most of the time, they're sat chasing a quota that is due to them. So I said this sort of earlier. If I run like a scope company, like I'll put in, I run Leica for Boston, right? The target for Leica in Boston is $3 million a year. And do you know what it was last year? It was $3 million. Well, it might have been 2.8 or 2.6. It doesn't really matter. It's roughly the same. And there is a flow of business going on. And therefore, I need to execute. I need to find people, answer leads, execute sales, get on and sell. So salespeople deal with stuff. They have a process to go through. Business development people have to sit there and work it out. And that's going to take months and years to get this done. Now, obviously, you're going to see some signs on the way. But you can't do business development while someone goes, did you give me $150,000 this month? By the way, you owe me $150,000. As one of my sales rep once said, oh, I get it. You want me to turn up with a truck with $150,000 in it every month? I'm like, yeah, every month. But if you do 175, I'll let you off 25 next month. And if you do 125, you owe me 175 next month. So sales is a different process for business development people. You can breathe easier. It's a little bit more. You have a different way of applying pressure to yourself to get the job done. So your prospecting tactics are going to be very, very similar. But to be honest with you, now, much more about what you're going to do is going to be about evangelizing, explaining the tech, getting people to do hands-on, having events, having meetings, having ways of engaging with people. It's different. You're going to have to apply so much more to get in there. So business development involves meetings and all these other things, but you have got a different way of doing this and a different pressure set to doing this. And this is why business development reps and salespeople, as per my graphic, they look the same. And one of the greatest fails I consistently have seen is salespeople moving into business development roles going, where's all the leads? What's happening here? God, guys, what do you want me to do? And they don't really understand they've got prospecting. They're not aligned to marketing and they have problems. So business development people, it's an entirely different game, although you're using some of the same skills. But the pressure's different. You're stepping out. You're stepping off the ride that you were on, the roller coaster, and you get to look at the roller coaster, but you've got to do a different task. So it is a different thing. And yeah, a lot of salespeople aren't good at it and they want to get in there because what they want to do, as I said earlier, is they want to do the juicy demo bit. And the juicy demo bit is further down the line of business development. So sales business development is still prospecting. It's still following the same rules. It's still doing the same things. It's in a different market or in a different place where you're not understood. And you're going to have to do a lot more evangelizing and talking about technology and so on. Whale hunting. Oh, I like whale hunting. I don't like hunting whales. This is, I think they said, Mark said on one of the posts, it's like, no Greenpeace will be called. I don't do any hunting for whales. But whale hunting is a concept that was created by this guy called Tom Searcy, I'm going to say is the name. I actually looked it up earlier because I watched some of his stuff on LinkedIn. He's quite an interesting guy. And Barbara Weaver-Smith. And they made a book called it. And basically they capture it all in this book. And the story is pretty simple. They have this kind of bit where they were on holiday and one of them was on holiday and they went to a whale hunting museum. And it was all about the Inuit people and how difficult it was and how different it is for them to go on a whale hunt, how much preparation and all the processes. And they said, well, this is like winning a really big account. And if you think about it, if you want to go fishing and get a small fish, we can all probably walk a couple of miles, find a stream, get a hook, find a worm, get a small fish. And how we prepare for that is like, look, if I had to go fishing with my friend Steve, I could go to the garage now and I could pull out a rod. I could be with him in an hour. If we're hunting a whale, we need to do a load more planning. There's a load more stuff that needs to happen, right? There's just significantly more things that need to happen. And we're going to treat it differently. I'm not going on my own. I'm not going, if I go hunting for a whale on my own, you're not going to see me again. And there's going to be a documentary about my disappearance. This is not how it works, right? We've got to do it as a team. This is you're going to look at certain applications or certain markets and go, look, here are the 10 companies in here. My aim is to win at least 6 of these 10 companies in the next 5 years. I'm going to not go for a meeting with them, do a deal, have a proposal, and get disappointed. I'm going to find another reason to go back and go back and go back because I know they have the thing, and I know my supplier is going to, their existing supplier is going to mess up, or I know we can bring them new technology to a different place. But I'm going to keep going back, and when I go, I'm taking the key person from engineering. I'm going to modify my products to sell to this account. I'm going to make admissions that I had it wrong and it's better for them in this particular way. Whale hunting is a larger sales activity, and critically for me, this is done by the management team. This is done by people that do not have the sales daily quotas. This is done by the people that aren't doing regular prospecting. This is done by the top people in the business as a management team. Collectively, you might use local people to help you. That's always the case. But you're doing this because it is so important to the business that you're going to take large chunks of revenue as you go. And that's going to take a business that's 10 million to 20 million. You're not going to go from 10 million to 20 million in 10 grand increments or even 100 grand increments, right? Unless you're going, okay, I now moved an entirely different market. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it in really large increments by winning very, very large accounts. It's a really interesting book. It is like $50 or something like that. But it basically sets out, look, there's a scouting section. There's, seeking out the whale, understanding where the whales come in, looking at where they're going, where do they look like, how do they do, understanding each of the whales, getting ready, setting the harpoon. All of these sections in the whale hunt will explain to you the similar things that you should be doing within your business to make sure you capture the account and how you continue to run the account. But again, if you're going to go for a super amazing opportunity with someone who's consistently buying products that consistently buys products, don't treat it like outreach. Don't treat it like prospecting. Don't treat it like business development. Treat it entirely differently and treat it like whale hunting. Treat it like it's a massive episode that's going to happen within your business. It's something that as a management team, you're going to hold each other to account for. So again, it's in there. Now you can do it from any position in the company, but I just say that the management team needs to be involved. What you can't do is go, I'm going to Apple. I'm going to go speak to the people at Apple. They spend $50 million a year on this stuff I've got in. And then you go, what do they say? Well, I've got some questions for you, factory. Where's the owner? Where's the president? Where's the head of the engineering department? Where's the customer service? Who's going as a team to discuss this? When's the next meeting? How often do you do it? You're having head-to-head communications on what's going on. It is a very, very different sell. And if you're selling a prospecting product for $150,000 or $500,000 and you need more people, you might need one. You might need someone to help you close it, but you don't need the president. So that's whale hunting. So you can use outreach for people. You can either automate that or use SDRs to help you get that, or people on the phone. There's internal sales, we used to call them in the old days. You can prospect. You can use your existing salespeople to prospect and find people that they're comfortable with because the applications and the use of the product they're comfortable with. You can use business development people, and they're not probably salespeople. Salespeople are not very good at taking their time, and they can look outside your normal comfort zones, and they're going to find you business by doing that. They're going to be bigger chunks as they do that, or they're going to launch a new product. Or you can do whale hunting as a management team to take these mega accounts and do something with them. They're normally particularly good if you're like in our industry, you'd be going to win the entire account of Pfizer for your particular thing. Or you would win an OEM account where you have a large opportunity or a single large purchase. So you've got to talk to them. How are you going to do it? Well, look, we do a lot of stuff on this because we do entire courses on this. So I'm not going to get to this in like a few seconds, but I'll give you the very, very basics of this. The first thing is draw a stick man of who you think the customer is. Just do it on a piece of paper. It's a stick person. It's gender neutral. And you're going to start to sit here and go, well, okay, what do they want? What are they using? What's their situation? And you can use things like, a value canvas to try and work this out, but you have to start to understand what is their title, where do they live, who do they report to? Just study your your kind of hunt, as it were. You need to understand your customers and what they're trying to do is the main thing. And the accounts. And that's the next thing. You got to work out, are you going account contact or contact account? And this is people like, what on earth is he talking about? Look, if you're selling to an OEM or you're selling to a big account like a farmer, if you sit in the OEM and you go, well, I'm selling to the OEM. Well, I'm looking at the company. I'm not looking at optical engineers and then going back to the company. I want to go to the companies I'm interested in and look at the optical engineers or look for the head scientists. I'm going to go account first. If I'm looking at, for example, an application and I wanted to look at something like a light sheet, for example, or an application in microscopy, then I would probably go for the microscopists and the light sheet people. And then the accounts are kind of useful for planning. But I don't care if you're in London or Boston or San Diego. I don't care. So it's not important to me. The fact that you're the person doing it is more important than you're the company doing it. So sometimes they do account first and then contact. Sometimes they do contact and account person afterwards. So let's have a look at it. Scott, how close should a BD collaborate with the sales rep? Oh, that's an interesting one. Well, while you're at that bit, Scott, I tell you what, I'll take that at the end. Let me keep my flow on this, and I'll take that at the end. There's another one from Owen as well, so I can do this and do some other ones at the end. But it's a good question. Next up, you're going to do some research. The first bit of research is, for God's sake, you have a CRM. We have all these hardworking people that made this system, and even if it's just an Excel sheet full of telephone numbers and names of people, or maybe it's a drawer like most of us have full of business cards. Start there, right? That's the simplest thing. And if you can't sort it out, then people can sort it out. I bet you that I and some of the people I work with could sort your CRM in basically 2 or 3 days to give you a decent calling list out of it, just by moving the data around and tidying up. Once you've got that, look at the free tools. Google, LinkedIn, ResearchGate for selling into science. ResearchGate's a really easy thing to do. LinkedIn, you don't need Sales Navigator to go and find out who the purchasing person is, a particular account, right? You don't need those type of things. You do if you want to drive lists, but if you just want to do some basic searches, you can. Google's pretty good. I've heard of it. My mum's heard of it. You can get a lot of information by just doing regular web searches. Now, when you want to start driving lists out of things, you want to get into lists. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is very, very good. It is very, very good. Caveat, if you're very, very good. You will, and I've said this many, many times, you will write the search terms that you think are genius, and you will go, oh, that's brilliant. The first person, let me tell you, the first search I ever did on Sales Navigator, I did high content screening. And the first page was Director of High Content Screening at Pfizer, Director of High Content Screening at GSK. Page 7 was nonsense. Page 7 was, what on earth's going on here with page 7, right? By the time I hit page 7, I ran out of useful. And it's telling me there are 1,500 people of good data here, right? They're not. The search terms have to be correct. The way you're asking it, the way you're driving it has to be correct. Otherwise, you will drive nonsense. And let's go back to that point about outreach, which is if you have the ability to do it, just don't do it because you can, right? Do it because you want to do it right. Don't go, oh, look, I sent 1,000 people some nonsense, and a nonsense list with a nonsense thing. It's like, yeah, well done. You get nothing in this world, unfortunately, for effort. Effort is just arm waving. You need to do the right things. Sales Navigator, be careful with. Apollo is another platform built like Sales Navigator. In fact, LinkedIn's a Sales Navigator, and Apollo is pretty similar, where they will drive information out for you in the same sort of way, and they'll tell you who the people are, who the key people are, and so all of these things. Sort of similar data, very expensive to get these things, and you would only really need that if you felt you were selling it. In the market I'm interested in, it's like instrumentation or kind of equipment, stuff like that. I'm not sure I would want to go into those. Sales Navigator is pretty good for me. SciLead, if you're looking at researches, I have a copy of SciLead for a client I work on. I get very good information from it. But again, you have to know how to drive it, and you have to take the responsibility for the data you're getting off it. Then you've got these things. Well, okay, I can make all these giant lists and I can get them out of CRM and everything else. Well, look, you've got to do things like check the emails. I don't put that on there. There's a tool called Bulk Email Checker. There are multiple. They'll tell you if those emails are still valid or if they're gone. You can use things like Apollo and other programs to check whether or not people are still at the accounts that you have them at, so you can actually go, oh, they're no longer there. These are small subscription things. I use Whizzer every day because Whizzer is a plugin for my LinkedIn tool. There's another one called RevDriver, and Whizzer will tell me what the email address is for that person. It's sometimes guessing. It'll give you an accuracy score. All these things exist. And again, I don't know, I pay $30 a month for a Whizzer. I find it pretty useful. It's helpful in particular times. So you go through and you have these tools that are plugged in. Now, understand, I once did an investigation for this for one of my clients, and I had Stuart, and I said to Stuart, right, I'm going to find out about you. I found out information about Stuart. I found out information about where Stuart lived. I found out Stuart's 3 previous cell phone numbers. I found out how much money they thought that Stuart owed to the bank on his mortgages. He later told me it was wrong. Scarily, I found out the 2 names of Stuart's daughters, and I found out information about where they were going to college. This is online. There are tools for this nonsense, right? So you can go scarily deep. And what I don't want you to do is I don't want you to get into the aim of, hey, I saw you support the Jets. The Jets won on Friday. Yeah, hang on a minute. We don't like this stuff. It makes our skin crawl when we get into it. What you can find out is where they worked before, who they're connected to you from, whether your connection to them is genuine. You can do lots of useful stuff, in particular if you can get their email. It's a great thing to start with. So finding people, and I want you to understand it. If you're struggling with finding people, do a course, look online, invest some time in all this stuff. It is possible. It isn't impossible. And nor do you need to pay a ridiculous amount of money to get this data. Next up, what are you going to say? Right. And I had this earlier. The subject line is next month's new annoyance. Okay. But for a month it works. So this month's success for email subject line is next month's new annoyance. Yeah, it is. Anything that you do, we used to have this. I used to say this thing to people that weren't getting back to me: impossible to contact. It worked. Now people send these emails to me. I may have started that trend, and it's like you get these ones of like, can you help me, or all of the stuff. You can kind of go through it, but quick question, or would you like to, or question about Guido, or new client for you, like lead generation people keep on telling me new client for you. So overall, what you say is down to your value proposition. It is easier to write a highly focused email that's very, very short to somebody in a very, very studied group, like a whale hunting or business development group, than it is to do an outreach email, because outreach emails are too generic. But you're normally going to end up with something that's faster, easier, better, or personal. For me, I found much better success looking at positioning what that person could be doing 2 to 5 years from now, rather than trying to sell them something for now. And you could say, well, the net effect is you want to sell them for something now. And you go, well, of course I do. But actually, I found looking for future solutions for them to be significantly better than to look for immediate solutions for them. Because, it's as Owen's been highly involved with his friend Dale, it's like only 5% of people are buying stuff. Only 5% of people are in market. So you're much more likely to open it up if you position your entire why I want to talk to you is about the future, and it's convenient that I'm in Boston. Not I want to talk to you because I want you to buy something. I want to talk to you about the way the world is changing and some of the ways we're going to attack it or whatever. But it is in there. And, I kind of put in here some approaches. These are standard approaches. Like, okay, I really want to tell you about, can you help me? Can you help me work for years? Can you help me is a fantastic way to pick up the phone. It disarms people tremendously well. Because like, yeah, of course I can help you. I'll try and help you. What do you need? It's like, well, I want to try and sell you something. Oh, I thought you wanted me to get a cup of tea or save the person's life or ring the police or whatever, But, can you help me works really, really well if you're doing like a study on them and you're using that to find out information about account. It doesn't work really well when you're automatically going to turn around and go, we're presenting on the 23rd. But you can say, I'm in the area, or I'd love to tell you about. You need a call to action for every phone call. Otherwise, it doesn't go anywhere or any emails. Well, what do you want to do? Hello, I'm just here to tell you about. Yep. Lovely. Told me now. Thanks. I mean, we get to these dead ends of sentences. You have to ask someone to do something. Look, even if it's small, and again, cavemen, place the order. No. Others ammo. No, it could be the next step along. So can we show you something? Look, we think this is changing the way it's working in the world. We'd just love to show you. We're doing this activity. We want you to attend this activity. And that's the crossover, I think, a little bit between BD and prospecting, is when you go and basically set up in a Marriott and do a show and tell. Roadshow type thing. Can we present it? You have to have some reason for them to get back in touch with you. And I hate, the people that, 50 years from now, the environmentalists will be digging up my bones and being very upset with me. I think you've got to go and meet people. I'm really sorry. I think you have to go and meet people. I think you have to travel. I think you have to be highly efficient with your travel, but I think you have to. I think that, sometimes the web meeting is a fantastic way to get you in there. But, I think if you really want serious engagement with people with large numbers, you've got to go meet them. It's so weird. It's a totally different environment. And if you want to, my final thing here is kind of like, this is where I end it. It's just like, you're going to start with email or a direct message or whatever you're going to want to do. If you don't have audible conversation with these people, I don't see it going very far. If you're in sales and you're doing a transaction, that's okay. I've had people buy, quite expensive things with me via email. But if they actually need selling to, you have to talk to them. If you're going to, how many people are going to spend $500,000 without shaking a hand? And I think we enjoy it. I think we should forget this. So, I've been recently buying a car, and I did three demos. It's 3 test drives: a test drive of Volvo, a test drive of Volkswagen, a test drive of Audi. And the guy from Volvo was appalling. I reported him to Volvo. He got in the car with me and said, "Do you like electric cars?" And I said, "I have to buy an electric car because that way I can reclaim all of the tax on the car against my company's profits this year." He then spent 20 minutes of the test drive telling me how bad electric cars were. Well, how did he align himself? I've already told him I've got to do it. So he's out and I made a complaint. He was that bad. Then I went to Volvo and they were really, really good. I didn't buy a Volvo. This is Volkswagen. I gave the guy at Volkswagen a £50 Amazon card for helping me. I didn't buy from him, but I want to reward him. And the guy at Audi said, like, I'm on holiday. And I went, I want to ensure that when I buy this car, you get the commission. Because you're a salesperson, this is good. And you've been very good at selling to me. We enjoy buying. And the fact we enjoy buying is we enjoy meeting new people and working stuff out together. We do enjoy it. So if you're possible, get there in person, right? Not always possible, but for the big ones, it has to be. Right. Last advert we'll get through. Actually, there's a couple more. So the other things is just so you know, we do some of these activities with advice, but we also have training courses on business development marketing. These are courses we give in your facility for you alone. We no longer do the open ones. And then we have From Zero Marketing. From Zero Marketing would be for a group that doesn't have any marketing, or a startup company where you've got, say, a marketing graduate, and we have to teach them about how to market into niche markets. Because unfortunately, most of the marketing that exists out there that's available in education, it basically teaches you how to market for Pepsi, right? It's like, Ferrari. How do we sell Ferraris? It's just like, well, do another, world such and such post. International Angle Grinder Day was my favorite day. So there's the courses that we have. Those, if you're interested in those, you can do them. We have more material on them. And then we've got the book. You should get the book. It's all out there. If you want to say thank you, buy the book. Otherwise, I'll send you a book. Next ones, we've got some webinars coming up. We have KPIs, so key performance indicators. This is one from Dan. He does this one basically focusing on operational people on June the 21st. There's planning and conducting voice of customer interviews with Scott, who is I'm the only person in the world that cannot hear Scott. And then we've got one from me, which is like a major, major passion. I'll look right at the camera for this. This is like the biggest thing I care about in the world. This is about basically organizing yourself to get stuff done. There are 3 things in life. There are busy work. Doing your expenses is busy work, right? There's trains on time. Like if you open the doors to your shop, well done. You don't get who gets a medal for opening the doors to your shop? I had to send this customer a quote. Yeah, that's trains on time stuff. That just has to happen. That just makes the things move. And then there is initiatives and critical events, which are the things that change your business, change your career, push you forward. And I don't want people, if you're living your life at the checkout and you're going, beep, did another email, beep, answered that question, beep, did my expenses, beep, attended the sales training, then it's never going anywhere. So it's all about that. So anyway, that's the end of it. So we can kind of sit here and wait. And I saw the questions. I saw Erwin saying when I read it correctly. Scott, you had a question, which is, how close should business development collaborate with sales reps? If you set them up correctly, the sales reps are always going to be jealous of what the business development people are doing, because the sales reps are feeling constant pressure. The sales reps don't want to do prospecting the same type of way. Some do. It's like, it's like people in the Navy. Some of them want to be submariners and go in submarines. Most of them don't, right? Most of them want to go abroad and it be nice and sunny when they stop, right? But you get some weird ones that really like it, but they are going to be at odds with each other, and you have to kind of manage that. And some of that is by doing it around markets and opportunities and setting it. They should know each other. I don't think they should work together. They should be respectful of each other. But really, that's a sales management job to cause the separation between them. You want to, sometimes it's nice to do drive-alongs. And if you're particularly if you have multiple sales reps and one business development rep, you've got to get them to get on. But if you're in that situation where you've got sales reps separated from one business development rep, the business development rep is James Bond. They're operating in secret. They're doing stuff to get stuff done. They're kind of undercover. Like, Beverly Hills Cop 2. Deep, deep, deep undercover. Any other questions? So I got some other comments in here. We'll give it the 30 seconds. If not, I'll answer it. Scott made a kind of comment earlier to me when we were talking about this before we joined, which is, which one's better? And it's like, well, it depends what you want to do. If I was, and I'm taking this off one of Owen's webinars when he did, they were talking about like marketing metrics, and they were talking about, well, what if you have to get it really going now? Well, sometimes buy an email list, make an email list. If you need to do some of that original kind of like outreach stuff is some of the way there. Sometimes you're going to have to dial for dollars as well. In your opinion, what percentage of sales reps leads should be generated by outbound versus prospecting? Oh, this is hard. It's really hard. Realistically, I've worked in businesses where if you didn't prospect, you would never, ever, ever meet quota. The reality for me is probably about 70%. When I did the analysis of a couple of different businesses, they're similar ones, but they merged and moved and so on. When I actually did it, about 70% of it was coming from new leads, and about 30% of it was coming from mostly farming, in honesty, but a little bit of prospecting in there, but a lot of it was farming. And we used to do things like, it's very easy to draw up a competitors list and sign leads and kick out stuff. But really about 70% of it was coming from inbound operations. And it's not just like, I think that people believe there's this magic wand where you do an ad campaign and you do something, half your leads came from the sales rep that sold your product 10 years ago that no longer works. Or the fact that they did a talk at a conference 5 years ago and you've got no connection to it. You can't stick stuff together. But realistically, to make it kind of work, I think it is really, Scott, you've fallen off my stage. That's fine. To make this stuff work, I think it has to be sales reps need to be given or have the ability to see at least 70% of it if they're truly sales reps. Where I see a danger is where people create targets and quotas on things for businesses. And then it's like, well, how are they going to get there? You just made that number up. And that's really where the business development reps and they're being told they're sales reps. Sales for me is like, it's been done before. There's a process. You know what you're doing. Most of the time when you're starting off these startup companies, they're probably business development until you get into a rhythm. So about 70%. I think 70% of it's coming off of general lead gen in some format or inbound, as you would say. Any other ones? While I wait for that, I'll finish. So what would I do? If I'm doing outreach, I would do outreach immediately if I've got nothing. Outreach works if I've got nothing. If I'm in a semi-comfortable position, I'd start to do prospecting. and farming for sure. If I was a sales rep or a sales manager, more importantly, you have to build in the cadence that we're doing these days on a particular thing. We're doing prospecting Thursday. We're doing a calling day. We're spending the first month of the quarter, or the first week of the quarter doing this. If you do not make it into a game, if you provide options, then procrastination will give you every reason not to do it. So it is a sales management or a self-discipline thing to say, no, I'm not doing that today. I'm doing this. And when people say, yeah, but I have to answer that email. If you were ill, you wouldn't answer that email. If you were on vacation, you wouldn't answer that email. If you're at a wedding for the day, you wouldn't answer that email. You will find a way around it. So sometimes you have to lock the door, shut off the thing, tell people to ignore you and leave you alone, and then you'll do it. Kids today, anybody under 35 doesn't want to answer the phone. How do we get around that? I don't know. I think there is, to a certain degree, like the old adage of, why did you call me when you didn't text me to tell me that you were calling me? Most of the people, well, let's answer the first. I'm now in the generation that is a buyer, right? I do believe that the generations that we're selling to at the moment, the majority of the generations we're selling to, the senior managers of large items that we're selling to, are between the ages of 35 and 55, right? We're in that kind of zone. We've done the work to hit the management positions of where we're in. There are some people that don't want to answer the phone, but there have always been people that don't want to answer the phone. You ever work with anyone technically likes answering the phone? You've got these highly intelligent people that want to try and avoid stuff. People, I tell you what, if you've got a problem, are they going to sit there and text 911 and go, hello, I have fallen down a well and broken my leg? They're not going to text, they're going to phone. You do use phones. They are less likely to have an office phone. This is true. They are going to be more guarded around their cell phone number. Whatever your job to do is, your job is to get them on the phone or to get them to engage. If that's your mission, you might say, I just want them to transact. I have a web shop. Go knock yourself out. But when you need something, you truly need something, you'll talk to people, right? Again, you can look at it. You can go buy the same car I had online. It'd be quite painful to do it. You have to go talk to people. So you create an environment while it's worthwhile talking to you. And if it's not worthwhile talking to you, then you know, what are the tricks you could do for it? Well, you could force them to talk to you through pricing. You could force them to talk to you through walls, which I don't think anyone likes. You could minimize the information that's there, or you could create an environment where it's so easy for them to talk to you through live chat that they'll talk to you through live chat.
Yeah.
Or they'll talk to you in a different way. We would always have people use the live chat function on our website that were the most introverted people that just wanted to do it because, like, you know, it's like the daytime television advert says, no sales rep will call because they like it. They don't want a sales rep to call. But I think you have to make your proposition so worthy that it's worth talking to you. Scott and I went to Boston about a month ago, probably, Scott. And yeah. I arranged every single meeting via email, but I didn't have every single meeting via email, did I? I went to the meeting rooms. You know, I've now worked out that, thank God, and thank you for this, America, I no longer need to wear a suit, right? This is a brilliant way. I don't have to wear a suit, particularly in our industry of kind of biotech and so on, or education, you know, and research equipment. So I didn't have to wear a suit. It's really easy. It's really nice. But everyone talked to me. So the difference seems to be that we used to be able to get them on the phone, but now our job is to get them to the meeting or to get them to the web meeting. And much more about it, I think, is combining those two things of getting them to talk to you because you want to talk about the future and not about selling them something now. That's what, at least that's what I'm seeing working for me. Yeah, actually, Owen's point is, I think it's the lack of desire to talk to sales reps. Why? Because sales reps are like, you know, they're after something. They want you to do something. They're going to cajole you into it. They're going to make you, you don't know what happened, but all of a sudden you use your credit card and now you feel like you've been scammed. So I think it's probably connected more to that. I used to say, if you want the price, we have to have a conversation, or if you want the deal, you have to have a conversation with me. There are tactics. So how do you now? You can invite customers to your house as well. You can get them onto that. Good. Right. It is 4:23. I've gone a little bit over. We are putting some of these things on YouTube. We're going to start posting these things into LinkedIn. We've done quite a few of these now. And thank you very much with this stuff. And again, I think it's a really nice community of people like Owen and Giovanni and Andy that turn up and do these things, and Rob and Andrew. And I thank you very much for your time, guys. I genuinely really appreciate the fact that you guys continue to turn up, and you're very, very loyal and helpful. And if you guys need anything, then please let me know. So at the moment, this is me. I think we're probably close to the end of this now, but hopefully there's a bit of an idea for you to talk about it. And when you're back thinking about it, go, well, we need to do outreach, or we need to do this. I think segmentation is the greatest tool on earth. What are we doing? Outreach, prospecting, business development, whale hunting, because each one of them is subtly different, and each one of them has subtly different tactics. So I go back to slide 1, and when I go to my caveman brain and go, what do you want to do? Sell stuff. Then we can start to form a better plan. A plan should take a week. It's not difficult. Good. All right. I got a 15-second delay, but other than that, I'm going to say
thank you.
It's the 14th of June, and I think I'm going to go off and slope off for a non-alcoholic beer and try and work out what's going to be for dinner. So I'm going to sit here and wait until someone says bye. That's my normal thing. And then we'll do it. We'll cut it off. I have to edit it anyway for LinkedIn. But thank you very much for you guys. I really appreciate the support. You guys have been very useful. The company is now 3 years old, so we're very proud of that. We've got it all in there. Angela, thank you very much as always. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it, and look forward to the new ones, and I really hope you can join us. And if you need anything from us, then please let us know. Duncan on there as well. Brilliant. Thank you very much. I will catch you guys later on. Have good weekends, everyone. Thank you. Bye now. Non-alcoholic, yeah, Andy, I do. I'm a very big fan of the non-alcoholic beer. I find beer gives me an entirely different hangover to everything else. It makes me very tired. But the non-alcoholic beer, Brewdog IPA, I find pretty good. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to drink alcoholic beer ever again. Wine, different story. Really quite like the wine. All right, I will catch you guys later on. Have a good weekend. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
All right.